Representative Allemand, Representative Angelos,
Here.
Representative Haroldson,
Here.
Representative Pendergraft,
Here.
Representative Sherwood,
Here.
Representative Smith,
Here.
Chairman Bear.
Here,
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
thank you. So we're now going to be working on Senate File 104, Higher Education Research Funding. Senator Scott, thank you very much for being here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for hearing the bill. Let me just give a brief overview of the origins of this. Frankly, it started when in midsummer, when I read an article in the Wall Street Journal of all places, saying that universities were going to have trouble funding their research and the research funding was going to have to come locally. And I looked at that and said, you know, they're right about the trouble coming because the federal government is cutting back on its research funding, which has been a primary source of funding for the universities. And you can predict they're going to have to cut back. Their deficit back in DC has gotten so big that it's interfering with their operating things, and cutting research has been a classic strategy. So you can predict that difficulty is going to last for some time. The article I read suggested states fund it with a state income tax credit, which fortunately we cannot do. But we have quite a bit of experience with raising funds by the state putting up a match and saying to the university, you got to match it 50-50. And that's what this bill does. It says we'll put up a match, and that is a good way to do it, Mr. Chairman, because with our uncertain revenue sources, that sort of thing we can fund when there is money available and not fund when there is not. It's not something that we've got to do every year. And so it's classic one-time funding, and we had an infusion of that with our stock market gains this year. So that's basically what the bill is doing, trying to solve a problem the university is going to have, whether they like it or not, because of the federal difficulties. And I would say, you know, the primary mission of the university is undergraduate education and should be. But I can tell you from experience, personal experience, that having an instructor who is actually actively doing good research enhances the undergraduate learning experience significantly. So it's a part of a great university, and it's been a part of the University of Wyoming, should continue to be, and maybe we can get a competitive advantage. The bill itself authorizes that, provides they can come with a exception request when they need funding, provides that it's not part of their block grant. And this was initiated outside the university, and it is not intended to be a part of the block grant. It's a separate thing. There are a couple of other provisions, Mr. Chairman, that really don't bear that much on, well, one of them doesn't bear much at all on the appropriation. We're looking to try to hit a home run in the research area. And most of the universities in the country will split the difference. When somebody makes a discovery, a researcher, the university makes a discovery, the difference is typically 60% to the university from the proceeds that they earn and 40% to the researcher. That incentivizes researchers to make sure that major discoveries are made on private time. And we provide services in getting the patents and whatnot, but we're losing money on it because we aren't taking in enough revenue, Mr. Chairman. And this says, you know, let's change the incentives. Go to 15% to the university and 85% to the researcher. That'll get more of the research done on university time. It wouldn't be worth the bother to try to do all the hoops to claim it's private. And it would make the university an attractive place for really high quality researchers to come, because that would be nobody else in the country is doing that. So that's a, we're swinging for the far fence and a home run on that one. I think it'd be quite helpful. Another provision we put in, most of the real grunt work on research is done by the graduate assistants. And I won't say they're paid slave labor wages, but they're not paid very good wages. And that we're trying to have an enhanced payment of $1,500 a month that's in the bill, that the university can give to some of those people to try to attract the best people there. And when you think of the stage of life those people are in, Mr. Chairman, they're getting married, starting young families, they're that age, and $1,500 a month that's real money to them. That'll get us, buy us some extra research. And that appropriation is in the bill at 1.2 million. And that is an ongoing appropriation. That would buy us, if on a 2-year biennial basis, 33 more of these. And the university, probably some of them would be, that's biennialized. And the university, some of them would be 1 year, some of them would be 9 months. They'd have flexibility to manage that. And that is another feature of this bill, Mr. Chairman, is to give the university total flexibility, like the 1585 provision I talked about. The university can and will negotiate separate deals where appropriate. You know, if you're using a lot of very high-tech, expensive equipment the university owns, a different division makes a lot of sense. And they need that flexibility. So, Mr. Chairman, the bill as it came to the House had 50 million in it for the one-time funding for the matching grants. The House committee amendment, the standing committee amendment, the Education Committee, took that appropriation out and left the 1.2 million appropriation in. And Representative Andrews said he didn't think that he could pass a 50 million appropriation in the House. And I see no reason to quarrel with his judgment.
As you look at this committee.
Yeah. As I look at the House as a whole, Mr. Chairman, I presume the committee is somewhat representative of the House as a whole.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right.
So that's what that did. And I didn't argue with him at the time, and I don't intend to.
Gotcha. All right. Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Senator. I look at this bill and I think about the wrong job done right is still the wrong job. And I'm not saying this bill was the wrong job. I kind of like the idea. But I don't see any sideboards in here. For example, if I wanted to study underwater basket weaving, which has been brought up a few times, and I found somebody out there to do that, to go ahead and initiate this process and donate the first money, I still don't think it would be appropriate for the university to be matching those funds. Has there been any thought given to parameters on the fields of study or the fields of research?
Senator?
There is some mention in here of things that fit the university mission, but frankly, this is the University of Wyoming. It's our only university. They take their land grant mission quite seriously. And the more frivolous things, I don't think they could get funded. I don't think they would fund them. They do have to match the university mission. That is in here. I think the research you're much more likely to get is okay, our oil reservoir has thus and such porosity characteristics. Will CO2 or nitrogen recovery, what's the best way to get the rest of the oil out of that? I think that's the sort of research you're much more likely to see funded. I personally would love if they would come and take a look at all the exclosures they've got around the state, which exclude grazing, and compare those to what's outside the fence, because the modern theory says what's inside that exclosure is likely to be less quality range than what's outside, because the grazing helps the outside. I would love to see that done. I've pitched that a couple times to the university, I haven't gotten it done, but I would think that they would be much more focused, because this will not meet all their needs. They're going to have to prioritize. And I don't think for the further out things, they could raise the matching fund. So as a practical matter, I think you're looking at research that will help the mission of the university. Now, and some of it may be more of a national scope. I was over there on a tour a few years ago, and they have a very fancy ability to take a microscopic picture and portray it in 3 dimensions you can walk right into. That is very useful in researching oil reservoirs. You take the data you've got and you translate it into that, and you can see the interconnections as best we know them. The time we were over there, they had a protein on it. And that is that ability, because as you do research in that area, biomedical research in that area, the ability to visualize the shape of a protein and how it might connect with other things is a major help in your research. So they have that capability, and that potentially is a big mind maker and helpful to all of us. But it's not very specifically tied to Wyoming. And I think we're better off on a thing like this, and the bill is structured so the university has flexibility, and I have some confidence in the management over there. And the trustees are in the process of hiring a new president, and I think it will be well implemented.
Further questions for the bringer? Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being with us this morning. In regards to the graduate student stipends, so the bill on page 3 speaks to that $1,500 a month for those research students, which I think is wonderful. But my concern is the language doesn't really allow us to inflation proof that amount. Was there any consideration in terms of, what this looks like in 5 to 10 years when wages have changed?
Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, fair question. In 5 to 10 years, I suspect we will change that number. That's something that can be done. There's nothing that says they can't add something to that. But that gives us a firm figure that works for now. I have no idea what the inflation is going to be in 10 years from now. And I think that it'll be easy to get something to change that figure if we need to. That's something that can be done in a biennial budget bill, actually. But would be better with the general bill. That's $1,500 is what works for now. And my co-sponsor, Senator Roffus, said he thought that would be, and he's the source of that particular idea, he thought that would be very attractive to the graduate assistants at this point.
Since you bring them up, why don't you?
Back up behind it.
Yeah. Why don't you join us in the comfortable chairs, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Okay, further questions for the bringer? Follow up, Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, that question really stems from conversations I think the good Appropriations Committee has been having about, it took us this long to address Hathaway as an example. And so just that curiosity of whether or not we can find language and formula so that there's an automatic adjustment. But we'll save that for an interim topic. My other question refers to page 4. We see that there is reference to that distribution model for research projects. You have 15% going to the university, 85% going to faculty. Do you know now what the standard agreement is currently with the university in regards to research projects? Thank you.
Senator Scott,
Sure.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative. Most universities have something that is around, starts off a little heavy towards the faculty, around 60%, 40%, but the University of Wyoming's model actually shifts, which is very common, to the point where once you've made more than $20 million of profit, it's 35% to the inventor and 65% to the university. That is standard. That is how it works everywhere, where the bulk of earnings off of intellectual property go to the university, not to the inventor. And the concern that Senator Scott and I are trying to address is that it is not an incentive to an inventor to invent through a university. What typically happens when faculty come up with a really good idea is they immediately isolate themselves from the university to develop that idea because they don't want to give up 2/3 or more of their idea to the university. So you've seen instances historically, for example, a couple of people that made Google out of Stanford worked very hard to isolate themselves from Stanford so that they could have the revenue rather than Stanford. And there are very few instances nationally, historically, where home runs really were hit by the university, even though the intellectual property kernel came from the university. The sensible folks isolated themselves from the university. The intent here is to flip that model and recognize that the inventor is the creator of wealth and the university is the support, and this puts it into that appropriate structure. It would be first of its kind in the country, and it would be very attractive for the University of Wyoming to recruit and retain innovative faculty that want to develop their intellectual property within the university system. So I can see it being incredibly attractive, and it gets back to the idea that when you look around the country, we hear about university research generating a lot of ideas, and it definitely does, but it doesn't generate commercializable intellectual property. That all happens outside because the system is so skewed against the inventor. So very, very, very few universities actually have successful intellectual property programs. Most of the time they're running them at a loss because the intellectual property that's produced within the system is trivial compared to what the system actually generates and spins out that's commercializable when the folks escape. So this is a different system.
And Mr. Chairman, I did in the process of working this up, look at percentages in surrounding states. I found a source, and they were all within about 10% of what the University of Wyoming is doing. This is very different. Do note that the university can, again, they can negotiate with specific inventors, specific deals. You need that flexibility. But
I'm sorry, Representative Pendergrass.
That's quite a difference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering, is it common, does it happen that one university will steal a researcher? In other words, if you bump this to 85% as you're proposing, is that going to invite somebody to leave another university to come here and study?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator?
my model of the world is the universities are continuously trying to steal the best ones. We got Mohammed Puri from Princeton, did we not? And the High Bay Research Facility was a major attractant there. It's free enterprise. It's continuous bidding. And the university, the bureaucracy didn't like this idea to start with, but listening to the president, they're starting to see the competitive possibilities and are warming to the idea. This This is an attempt to take the university another step in being a great university. And as I say, it's swinging for, it's looking for a home run.
Further questions? Representative Sherwood.
Thank you. Just to follow up to this model, which I really like very, very much what you guys are doing here. Was there any thought on tightening up the language in here? Again, I'm on page 4 and section D. It seems to me that there's still a loophole for the university to move away from the model that you have set out. Can you speak to sort of your thought, pros and cons in allowing the flexibility versus really sticking to this 1585%?
Okay. Mr. Chairman. I expect the university to move away from the model in specific cases where, and the high bay research is a good example. Where we're providing that kind of heavy tech equipment that's essential to the research. I think a mutual negotiation would produce a very different percentage. So I expect that. If they didn't implement it at all, they would miss out on that. And we might have to push them a little. I think the bureaucracy, if left to its own devices, wouldn't do this. But listening to the president of the university testifying for the committees here, the management is starting to see the possibilities. And that's what it's really going to take, Mr. Chairman, because you have to give them, to get reasonable results, you have to give them some flexibility. And presuming we get a competent president next time, and I'm very hopeful that will happen, this is an opportunity to be seized.
Okay, further questions? Senator, I had very similar questions about these, this limitation in paragraph D really isn't much of a limitation. And knowing what I know about the high bay, where you suggested most of the research that this bill would cover would end up, I'm curious, have you had conversations with Mohammed Piri, and what is his reaction to this 1585 split?
Mr. Chairman, I have not. I have worked through the normal channels at the university, and I set out to make sure they had the flexibility, because I've been over and I've seen that. I've talked to him in the past, and I know that there are negotiations now with him. I think I just want to make sure that the management had the flexibility to deal with that, and that's I have no business trying to negotiate a proposition.
Yeah, and most of those research projects are funded by corporations from across the world, across the
Yeah.
globe. Wouldn't that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, that is, and there is a specific provision in here that does envision that that's something that they could do, that they could raise some of the matching funds that way.
Do you feel that it's necessary that the taxpayer provide a match to attract those global companies?
Mr. Chairman, with that particular project, we've done pretty well with the current circumstance. But there are so many possibilities. And some of the things we can do with this, we could use what we raise fundraising and the matching to provide facilities that could be of use to a wide variety of researchers. The ability to have the same device where you can walk into the middle of the thing and either look at a protein or an oil reservoir. That's a classic example of a research facility that will help us broadly. So that's something maybe you can pitch to the alumni. So I think with the high bay, we're already good enough. We're going to attract money and business there, but there's so many other possibilities. It's almost endless.
Senator, I agree. I think that's why, this to me looks like something for everything outside of the high bay versus the high bay, which you
Yeah.
used as an example. So looking at this, I'm curious, and Mr. Senator Rothfuss, maybe you're the right person to answer this. Looking at this $1.2 million, it looks like it's about 30 to 33 researchers full-time year-round. I don't know if that's really the norm. But how many researchers, how many graduate research students do we have in the high bay and outside of the high bay today? Do you know?
Mr. Chairman, I'd have to get that specific number, but it is in the hundreds in terms of total graduate researchers that we have at the university. Probably the low hundreds, let's say 300 to 400 is probably a rational estimate. The nuance to these particular funds, and perhaps Senator Scott mentioned this before I arrived, you have highly competitive federal fellowships available for researchers that are competitive. It's kind of like, it's the research equivalent of trying to get the best athletes from all of the schools around the country coming out of high school. And there's National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, DOD, most of the major agencies have some version of a federal research fellowship for those that are going to graduate school in research. And those are the recruits. Those are the 5-star recruits that everybody wants to get, because those come with funding and they come with decent funding. So it pays for your full tuition and it pays for a stipend, a living expense, a modest living expense. The intent of this is to put a little frosting on top. So most of it's being paid for by the federal government through one of these grants, and it would give us the ability to recruit the best students in the country. Those graduate students are the ones that win the Nobel Prizes. We always give the credit to the faculty, but the reality is it's the grad students that do the work, that come up with the ideas and work harder, and they are the smarter and better students. So the idea of this is you don't have to pay for the full cost of a fellowship. You just have to say, hey, if you've got a federal NSF fellowship, we're going to give you an extra $1,500 a month. And in the eyes of these students, that is a lot of money, a lot of money. So the idea here is not necessarily to change what we've got right now. We'll still have our 400 or so that would come here anyway, but to be able to recruit 30 all-stars, 35-star researchers across disciplines and bring them to Wyoming is the novel aspect of this that really would push us to the next level.
Senator Rothfuss, how many of those federal NSF fellowship students do we have now? And I think you answered my next question, that is you'd like to attract about 30 more with this program, but I don't see any sideboards in the language of the bill that says this is the type of student we're trying to focus these dollars on. So, you know, the university, if they didn't see your vision, they could, you know, spread these dollars out over a whole lot of researchers that may not be that pinnacle researcher like you're suggesting. So give me your thoughts on whether the bill really gives the kind of vision that you're trying to accomplish here.
Mr. Chairman, it is a vision that I've discussed with the university. If you feel that there needs to be more sideboards on it, I don't think anyone's going to be averse to those particular sideboards. Senator Scott and I have talked about exactly that. As far as how many we have at any given time, I would say the university probably has 5 or so at any given time. Maybe we get up to 10 from time to time. Again, these students can go anywhere. They have a full ride to any university in the country, basically. Those are the folks that Harvard says yes to, and you know, my alma mater, University of Washington, just cherry picks those from all over the country. That's how we ended up there. My wife had one, and that was what took us to the University of Washington.
Senator, those 5 to 10 that we have currently, what colleges are they typically found?
Engineering, molecular biology, which is in the Ag College. Those would probably be the places where I would expect most of them to be, maybe associated with SER. We might have some in chemistry and physics, but typically the chemistry and physics that have those will probably end up somewhere else unless they apply for them in one of their later years. You can apply for them after your first year also, and those are the ones that we would typically get. If you get one of those before you go into school, then you are the 5-star pick that everyone's going to recruit. But if you acquire one as you're already working on your PhD, those people would be the ones that would typically stay resident at the University of Wyoming.
Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, and I favor leaving that broad because this is one of those cases. If the ag college makes a pitch that there's a particular graduate student that really understands some of the grazing issues in this state and would be a big help to us, why not? It's $1,500 a month. Why not invest one of our ones in recruiting the best there? I see it as something that the university faculty can compete to try to get one of these so they can recruit the best one in their area. And I think that should be open broadly across the university. Wyoming has some expertise, special expertise in astronomy. That might be a place where one would be recruited. You need to keep this broad and let the management of the university manage the university.
Okay. Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. University of Wyoming has a very shiny science lab. Is there any evidence that, I'm referring to the science lab, is there any evidence that in and of itself has attracted a certain number of students or researchers just to be able to take advantage of that facility?
Senator Rothfuss.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask Representative Pendergraft, which facility are you referring to, the new SI building or what facility?
Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you. The one with the greenhouse on the roof.
The new SI building. Mr. Chairman, I don't know that we have evidence yet. That's something that's been open for a few years. Honestly, I'm curious about it as well. I can go back and check with the university whether we've seen that attract. It definitely creates opportunities for world-class research, certainly in the greenhouses up on the roof, which are spectacular. But other facilities in the building are exceptional. But I don't know, since we just opened it about 3 years ago, whether we've had a splash or not. I'll have to look into that. My apologies.
Any further questions? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything currently preventing the university from making these decisions themselves and putting their investments in this direction and model?
Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, they haven't done it, and they've used their block grant in somewhat different ways. We're trying to get them to think outside the box here, and money talks. We appropriate the money, they will do it.
Follow up? Okay. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator
If I may, one quick response to that. I'd say on the 85-15, no university would make this decision without the cover of something like a legislature. The other things could potentially be done, but there is no way the university would just step up and dramatically change the entire paradigm of research participation at the university. So that one, I would say no, couldn't be done without us.
Okay. All right. Do we have anyone online? No one behind you, so we're going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and close public comment then. Thank you for presenting, and just stick around here. We'll go ahead and take care of this. Committee, what's your pleasure? Move to pass. Have a second. I'll second it. Discussion on the bill. Representative Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of like the bill. We have told the university time after time of what they cannot do. I'm not against telling them what they can do, but I cannot support the bill today because of the sideboards. We need some sideboards on the bill just to protect us, but and I haven't totally decided. I still may vote for it because it's 1.5 million. If it was 50 million, there's no way I'd vote for it. But I'm of the opinion we could set the university out on a different path than what they've been taking, and this could be the start of it. And when it's all said and done, I'll probably vote for it. Thank you.
Okay. Further comments?
Mr.
Okay,
Chairman,
Sherwood.
thank you. I do want to send this to the floor for that larger discussion, but I do agree with my good representative in terms of setting the university on a different write it on your calendar, setting the university on a different course in terms of the percentage here and saying that we can do better by our top talent, we can do better by our researchers, and we can think outside of the box and really move the needle on problem solving that will benefit Wyoming industry. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, and you appear to have a desire to vote. We'll go ahead and Ms. Childers, would you please take the roll on Senate File 104?
Roll call vote, Senate File 104, engross, do pass. Representative Allemand?
Aye.
Representative Angelos? Aye. Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
No.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
No.
Chairman Bear?
No.
Mr. Chairman, 4 aye, 3 no.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. And you betcha. All right, I don't think we have any other business, so we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all. We're adjourned. Yeah. This